What kind of kid were you growing up?
What kind of kid was I? Well, I suppose that, of course, is going to depend on who you ask. uh, I would say, a prototypical. I was a little kid in the '50s, high school in the '60s. I was president of the class of 1969, and this was back in, it was a different time then. So, cars, girls. I was not an academic standout, to be clear. And I was, then on a track to kind of take over the family business, which didn't happen. So I don't know what else you want to know. I mean, I was like classic all-American kid. I was a Cub Scout, kind of flamed out in the Boy Scouts, played high school sports. I was the keyboard man in a rock and roll band, and we were pretty good. And we toured the whole area here, and it was all just kind of, in retrospect, it was the perfect kind of growing up. Didn't get any better than that. And then
Right.
off to college, and you kind of heard a little bit of it from there. Everything changed
Right.
once I got to
Yeah.
campus.
So it's interesting, Chris, what you told us earlier that in the 70s you led a protest, Can I say maybe looking back, that event, maybe it's one of the experiences that shaped your view of leadership?
Oh, absolutely. The moment was, we were deeply into the Vietnam War, a vastly
Hmm.
unpopular
Hmm.
war.
Yeah.
And part of the reason lots of kids were in college was they didn't want to get drafted. You know,
Yeah.
now that wasn't the case for me, but here's an interesting footnote. While I'm in school at the University of Washington, my dad was chairman of the draft board back in Spokane.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Oi.
yeah. So that made for an interesting dynamic, in that I had all of the local press constantly
Oi.
checking up on me, making sure I wasn't getting some special treatment or something.
Right.
Because the
Right.
thing you did not want was to get that dreaded letter from the draft board now that you'd been classified 1A. And what would happen is that all these people that never had any time for me back home would suddenly wanted to be my new best friend. Hey, guess what, man? You won't believe it. Oh, I converted. I'm a Christian now. I'm a nonviolent person. I need to get a draft deferment. And I'm like, give it a rest. So it was pretty weird. I'll give you this to think about. So one day, it's a Saturday morning. I'm hungover from Friday night. I trundle down to get the mail, and I get this, and there it is. There's the dreaded letter from the draft board. I thought, oh my God, I
Wow.
thought I was in good shape. What the hell? So I open it up, and it's the one you didn't want to get. Mr. Christopher Majer, blah, blah, blah. This to inform you, you've been classified 1A. You need to report for your physical, blah, blah, blah. And all the blood drains from my face. And then down at the bottom, in a little hand scrolled note, April Fools, love, Dad. You know, oh, you asshole.
Love it.
You wait. Just wait till you're old and in a wheelchair. You're going down the stairs for that.
Oi.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Was there a moment when you realized you wanted to help people develop their potential?
Yeah, when I was in graduate school, I had interesting opportunities seemed to fall my way. I got called into a professor's office. I was asleep one morning. I was a little bit of a rabble rouser and hellion in those days, and apparently had a reputation as such. So I got a call one Saturday morning at 7:30 in the morning, for God's sakes, and some woman's on the phone. Mr. Major, yeah. This is, Mrs. Throttlebottom. I'm Professor Gore's secretary. Like, lucky you. Okay. So what? She says, the professor would like to see you. I'm like, what? It's 7:30 on Saturday? No, not now. He wants to see you. Well, why are you calling me? Well, we heard about you and figured this would be the only safe time to get you. Great. So he wants to see you Wednesday at 3. I'm like, okay, great, but who's Professor Gore? I know this guy was. So he's one of the senior professors in the political science department. Okay, great.
Mhm.
So I go see this guy. And then he looks at me. Now, it's, what year is it? It's 1971, 72. And the first thing out of his mouth is, how'd you like to go to Alaska? I'm like, are you nuts? What? He says, and he laid out the little school up in Sitka had gotten a grant to do this educational program for villages to help implement the Native Claims Settlement Act. And
Right.
they needed competent people. I'd been, finishing up my studies in the Graduate School of Public Administration. So, we need some hot shots. You're supposedly one of the hot shots to go up there and get this program going. I thought, well, I'm not so wild about that. And he says, well, and we go on for about half an hour, and finally says, no, and we'll pay you $4,000 a month plus all your expenses. Oh, dude, you should have led with that. that was your opening line.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because that was a lot of money in those days for a graduate student, right? And so we put together this team. We went up to Alaska, and all this was about implementing the Native Claims Settlement Act. And I thought, well, if that's what we're doing, maybe I better read this Native Claims Settlement Act so I know what's going on here. I started reading this thing, and to be blunt about it, said I was left with, Jesus H, right. The language in this thing is tries to obfuscate the fact that once again, we're trying to screw over the Indians. I can't believe it. This is like stuff from the 1800s. The basic premise of the Native Claims Settlement Act was we want to build this Alaska pipeline. We have to buy and set aside land for, and we need to get it from the natives. So they wrote a check for $900 million, split amongst these regions and then down to the villages. But if you read it, the basic premise was we're going to give you title to the land and this money, and then you set up and do whatever you want with it. And then in the fine print, oh, by the way, we can't give you title to the land right now because most of Alaska has never been surveyed. But we'll give you the money. And in the back of their minds, they're going, well, we'll give you the money because we know you won't know what to do with it. You'll squander it. And then we'll take the land back since you can't pay back these loans, so forth and so on. And I was like, oh, man. So that kind of woke me up to, the way that we've been treating not just Native Americans, but people in general, and started me on, this different path of, well, okay, wait just a minute here. And my grandfather had been a social activist, and my other grandfather had kind of run the town of Spokane. I mean, he was chairman of the Democratic Party and, 33rd degree Mason and Shriners and all that kind of stuff. So there's a little something in the blood. My dad's high school buddy was then the Speaker of the House, Tom Foley. So I was raised and immersed in that kind of stuff forever. That kind of set me into motion.